Well, evidently, a beard is kind of a problem for microphones sometimes, so bear with me on this. I think you guys have been amazing all night. I can't believe how many people are here. All right, here we go. So, if you've been paying attention, there we go. If you've been paying attention to the world of education at all and recent trends, then you know the acronym STEM. And that stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, and those are 4 words you all know well. But the term STEM is a recent acronym that's just particularly catchy because we think these things are now particularly important in the world, all together. Similarly, if you've been paying attention to business and technology or other things, you might have heard of big data or data science or analytics. And basically these all mean the same thing, and they mean we're now able to capture tons and tons of data and we start analyzing it and coming to conclusions from it. This particular slide comes from the healthcare industry, and going to the doctor is completely different than it was 10 years ago. I go now and the doctor has a computer in front of him. He has my profile up. He has whatever conditions I have, whatever medications I have. Anything I tell him, he types in and then other people get. If he decides that I need a prescription or a procedure or acupuncture, right? He can give that to me instantly or very, very quickly. It really is saving lives and making our lives while we live better. Now, I am a lifelong data hound. When other kids were drawing pictures, I was making lists and I was ranking things and categorizing them and analyzing them. So I'm in heaven right now in some sense. It's incredibly exciting. I get to know things I could not have known at any other age. And I'm incredibly excited for what's next. But that's not really what I'm going to focus on in my talk. Instead, I'm going to focus on a danger that I see as we get more of this data that is driving big data and also driving the focus on STEM. When I was in high school, I worked as a cashier at Save On Drugs. And in the break room at Save On Drugs, there was a printout of a spreadsheet of all the different speeds associated with the cashiers. So me being me, I analyzed that data. I figured out my strengths and weaknesses, and I attacked my weaknesses. In some sense, that meant actually getting better in terms of how I did my cashiering, but it also meant just recognizing, oh, you mean when I do a price check, I'm supposed to hit this button so it doesn't count against my speed. This makes sense to me. And pretty soon, I was the fastest cashier, at least according to the data. On the other side of things was Debbie. Debbie was also a cashier, and she'd been doing it longer than I had been alive at that point. She was a grandmother, and while I was efficient and friendly, she made people feel at home. She knew every product in the store. She knew exactly where it was, and I'm not talking about like aisle 13. I'm telling you, she could tell you where in the aisle it was and give references so that people who didn't know the store could find it. Every week when the coupon book came out, she was going through it, seeing what she thought was particularly good coupons, and then she would go and tell the customers about it. And the stuff she thought was really great, she'd take a stack of those coupon books and she would cut it out and have it on her register ready to give to people. I don't think it is a tough question to answer who was the more valuable employee, me or Debbie. It was Debbie. But how did the printout of the spreadsheet get there? It wasn't there because the store manager thought it was important, because he didn't have the ability to get that data just on its own. That had to be implemented by people who were working with software and all sorts of technology. That came from higher up. Somebody far removed from the system who had no idea I or Debbie existed, who just thought, yeah, we want our cashiers to be fast. Yeah, of course we do. On the whole, it's a good thing. But all it takes is one person a bit down the rung feeling pressure and being told, you know, we need to be efficient. We need to go fast. Look at that data. Who is pulling your weight? And then that manager goes to somebody like Debbie and says, that kid who's only been here a couple months is already faster than you. And I see you always gabbing away with all these customers. You know, we're running a business here. You need to change how you're doing things. This type of thing is bound to happen. Okay, just read that for me if you can. Can you read it?
Yeah.
All right. All right, that laughter tells me I don't really need to elaborate on this. The idea that politicians are a little bit untrustworthy, pretty well established. Try this one. Can you read that?
Yeah.
Okay, you go ahead. I'll read it too. What are the odds that people will make smart decisions about money if they don't need to make smart decisions? If they can get rich making dumb decisions? The incentives on Wall Street were all wrong. They're still all wrong. The young Wall Street man is making money for his clients. And he's making money for them and making money for them. He's giving investments and everything is turning up roses. And he's pretty happy about this. He's getting a pat on the back. The clients are happy. But the longer this continues, the more he gets a little suspicious. See, it's not just him that's doing well. Everybody around him in his firm is doing well. And all their competitors are doing well. And when he looks at the stock price of the companies that he's buying and how they keep going up, they no longer seem to be tied to anything real. Price to earnings ratio, what's that? All I know is it went up yesterday, and as long as people keep buying, it's going to keep going up and keep going up and keep going up until it does not go up anymore, until it stops, and then it will not hold still. Then the bubble will burst and people will get hurt. So what does this young go-getter do? Talk to his bosses? Well, they know, right? They've been through bubbles before. Okay, so the bosses are the problem, right? They're corrupt. Tell the press. Well, he does a Google search and everybody's talking about the bubble bursting. Everybody already seems to know, so he doesn't feel like he can do anything about that. Well, at least he can protect his clients, right? Except if by protecting his clients, that means that he ends up using a safer set of investments. That means that if they are comparing his performance compared to everyone else around him, he's the worst one. He doesn't know when the bubble's going to burst. It could take years. He's getting evaluated by his bosses every quarter. He's getting evaluated by his clients constantly. If he does this route, he could lose this career he worked so hard for. And meanwhile, if he just goes along with everybody else, then when the bubble bursts, they can't really fire everyone, can they? So what's the common theme here? Is it that we should value long-term thinking? That we should care about people beyond ourselves? Well, sure. But I'm focused on the thing that's causing people into these moral quagmires. Can you read that one? No, not so much? Okay, bear with me. Our relationship entered its decline at this point. Yeah, that's when you started graphing everything. Coincidence! Thank you. So the reality is when we start quantifying things, we can't quantify everything. And what do we start with? Well, it would be nice if it was we start with the most important things, but a lot of the most important things are hard to quantify. Some of them are essentially impossible. So what do we start with? Whatever's easiest, right? And if the stuff that's easiest isn't quite good enough, then we end up doing things that are forest for the trees, things that help us in the short term and not in the long term. Now, you all know what a scantron is. I know what a scantron is. I'm not actually here to say scantrons are terrible, we need to get rid of them all. They do some great things, but obviously they're not everything. All right, so what's the takeaway here? Well, it is absolutely not that we should reject this data, these new things. It ain't like it used to be. It used to be better. We need to just burn it all to the ground. No, that's not an option. And even if it were, no, there's the data hound talking here. Like, you can do great things with it, but it is not alone sufficient to get everything we want done and have things be for the greater good. So, if you want to get to the actual root of understanding, you need to start off by understanding this data. That's the language that people are going to be talking in. If you're going to get in the conversation that they are in, you need to start from there. But then you need to go beyond it until you see the gaps between the numbers. Thank you.